for your glory, Lord. So we just thank you for this time, and it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Well, I really appreciate Andrew asking me. As a kid, maybe I've told Andrew this before. As a kid, I never really spoke much. I never said anything. I just followed along with what my dad wanted me to do, and went to Presbyterian church, and was just telling him about an old girlfriend that I hooked back up with when we moved up here in 1959. I grew up in the little town of Girard, Kansas, down by Pittsburgh, town of 2,500. We had a great youth group because we had great meals on Sunday nights, and so that packed them in. And so I just then followed from there, left Girard in 1959, went to Shawnee Mission North, ended up going to KU, taught at Baser, Kansas for 3 years, and then went from Baser to get my master's at Kansas in 71, then came to South. Then left South in 2001 after 30 years and went to Blue Valley West for 17. And here I am now. Rob Hull, he talked about. Rob played for me, 83, 4, and 5. Wonderful kid. And as I said, I never spoke much. Rob didn't speak much. But after I took a speech class at KU, and I spoke for 5 minutes on the curveball, I haven't shut up since then. You know, I basically talk all the time. You know, my wife, after 52 years of being married to her, has sometimes told me, just be quiet. Aaron, are you married?
Yeah, I've been married about 2 years.
Okay, take my advice. Learn to just listen with women. Yeah. Don't offer any advice, just listen. They just want you to listen. You know, I've had several journeys. You know, starting in Girard, I loved my church. Our pastor, Reverend Smith was his name, and our first pastor was kind of hellfire and damnation. And when you left church, as church was going on, you kind of leaned back because he was blasting stuff in your face about that you were going to go to hell if you were not doing these good things. So I related church, I related God to, if I do good things, then I'll get to heaven, you know, and that's not going to do it. I have to accept Jesus Christ. And then we had a Reverend Shelton who really started the youth group and was a wonderful pastor. And then I saw kind of some bad things happen in church with them getting rid of Reverend Shelton because he smoked and he spoke like he was from the Ozarks. And I thought, how could, you know, the inner workings of a church, how could that happen? And so that kind of set my brain a little bit about religion for a while. As I fast forward to coaching and where God came in with my coaching, I think Jackie would have to maybe agree with this. I've always tried to be an example to the kids of this is how you conduct yourself. You know, Jackie being in cheerleading, Aaron, you in soccer, we have kids all the time that say things we don't approve of. It's how we react to them to change them, to help change them. A person that had a big help for me, it was a big help for me. I don't think Jackie was there. She might remember him. We had a guy named Dennis Butler who was a counselor at South. And then today I walk with him every Sunday. He lost his wife 6 months ago to cancer, and he's looking for, he's mad at God. That's what he is. And I went through the same thing when my father died. When my father died, I punished God for a long period of time. And what really has to happen is that's when we need to go to God. You know, when we have these down times, we want to blame somebody else. That's when we need to enter in with God. And Mike Naster walks with us. We meet at 1 o'clock at Shawnee Mission Park. And this has been a healing for Dennis Butler. And our talks about my struggle with my father dying, his struggle with his wife dying. One of the things that helped me and changed me a great deal was Dennis. In some struggles with my 1985 team. We won the state championship, but there were some people on that team that were not of good character. And I began to compose my character passages that I wanted to get with that I wanted the kids to have. And Dennis told me at the time, and I think this is something all of us need to listen to as a coach, he asked me on the phone, I talked to him about the issues I was having, and he said, Bill, do you think you change behavior? And, I kind of went silent for a period of time. And after I thought about it, I said, I really don't change behavior. I modify behavior so they fit into the team. And it probably takes something emotionally, seriously happening to a person, maybe to come to God, and this one young man that I particularly had an issue with, if you know anything about baseball, he threw 91, 92, which is pretty good velocity, but he didn't have the core characters beliefs when things begin to happen bad to him on the mound. He would fall apart, and he didn't have that character base. I began to look at myself as I've got to come up with that character base so I can build my team from within, not depending on their skill level, but from within. I read a book by John Eldredge. It's called Fathered by God. And that's probably one of the best books I've ever read. And what it does, it takes a young man through his 6 stages of his life, from going from a child to a cowboy, from a cowboy to a warrior, from a warrior to a lover, which I'm really good with that. I mean, with my 2 dates in high school, I really understand those things. To being king of his household, to then the stage where I'm at now. At 75 years old, I'm now at that stage where I tell things, and I spoke at a clinic at South in December, and I go back to things that didn't work for me and things that did work for me that I can help a young coach with. Because no matter what you think as a coach, if you have some success, you could win 100 games in a row, and then if you lose 2 in a row, you're going, what's wrong? I've lost it. Something's wrong with the way I'm teaching and coaching. And you got to have that character piece within you. I also have read a lot, particularly about the cowboy phase. He goes from child to a cowboy. And when he's a cowboy, he's now moving into middle school. And as a cowboy, he needs his dad to give him positive strokes. I don't mean to try to build his self-esteem. My dad always told me, Bill, you have to develop your own self-esteem. I can't give it to you. You have to know that you're a good person. That's when he needs to be told, hey, you did a great job of mowing the yard. But, look, I missed these spots too, John, right around this corner. I'm talking about my son. I missed these spots too, John. See, I didn't put him down. That's a terrible job. It's the same way with a baseball pitcher. I cannot bring a pitcher into the dugout after he's had an inning or 2 that are bad and say, your fastball is terrible. You talk to them in terms of your fastball is going to come in the 4th inning. Right now, your breaking ball is the better pitch. I'm giving him hope is what I'm giving him. And I can present it to him. And so I tried to present it to my ball club. That's how you speak to each other. You don't put somebody down because we all have failure. So that cowboy stage, he wants his dad. He wants adventure with his dad. And his dad can give it. My adventure with my dad was playing catch with my dad. I can't watch Field of Dreams without crying at the end where he says, you want to play catch? Because my dad and I played catch all the time. And I would always tell my parents in the parent meeting, catch, dads, is important. It's not about catch. It's about getting to know your dad and your dad getting to know you. If you have children, my daughter was born first, then my son, and I hold those 2 children in my arms. And I say to myself, yes, these are my children, but I don't know them. And I have to get to know them. And that's the same thing in coaching. I have to get to know this young man and let him know I care about him before I ever talk to him about being a baseball player. I've also read Angela Duckworth's book about grit, where she talks about passion and perseverance. I was lucky that God put me in the field he put me in because I thought I was going to go into business when I went to KU in 1962. And after my second accounting class, where I could have been taking Latin, I had no idea what was going on. And the instructor said, Bill, just stay with it. I'll get you through. He got me through. I don't know how. From that moment, I walked across the street. God was taking me across the street to the PE department at KU. And I met a wonderful man named Don Henry, who put me in the pathway to get going as a physical education teacher and a coach. And I was worried about money. I told him that I'm worried about money. He said, Bill, the more money you make, the more you spend. The less you have, you got to be better with it. And that's been my life, trying to be better with it. Also, there's a great book written by Jay Billis talking about toughness, where toughness comes in coaching. It can be loving. You can have that loving toughness, but the player's got to know you're in the dirt with him. In soccer, he's got to know you're in the dirt with him. In baseball, he's got to know that I'm right there with him, that I've got his back. Okay, to coach, God entered into me for some reason that it was my passion to give to somebody else and not glorify myself, but to actually maybe glorify myself through him, the player that I'm working with. And God gave me that connection with young men. You have to I've written these things down. You have to be patient with young people as they go up and down in the momentum that they have as they're trying to become a person. And I always talk to people about my players, about being a person. I'm talking to them as a person first, not as a player. Coaches have to have a character foundation. If I was interviewing Jackie to be my cheerleading sponsor, or Aaron, if I was interviewing you, I would not hire anybody that could not give me their character piece. You can say, Aaron is really a good soccer player. He's got great character. What does that mean? I think you have to put words to that. So I developed 5 things that I thought were important. Respect, that you give respect to those people that you're playing against and your teammates, that you're responsible to your school, your administration, and the people that your parents that you have in your program. I have integrity, and the kids have to know these. If a young man sees Andrew says, hey, you played baseball for Shawnee Mission South or for Blue Valley West. What's it like to play for McDonald? They must be able to explain, if I've done my job, they must be able to explain what I stand for. And I stand for respect, responsibility, integrity. Integrity is very important because today we're lacking in integrity and truthfulness, and we have to be that truth sayer to the kids to let them know where they stand. We have to be truthful with them. We have to be truthful with the parents where they stand. Then sportsmanship. I won't say who the person is. Jackie may have had this person in school, loved him to death. He was a catcher for us. He then assisted me for 4 or 5 years at South and then came with me to West. And with these being, I've given you 4 of the 5 that was part of our belief in our program. And sportsmanship is one of them. I'm going to give a baseball play. If there's runners at second and third and you put the suicide on, everybody knows what the suicide, Jackie, you know what the suicide, you put the bunt on to try to score the guy from third. Okay, sometimes we put a double suicide on. Everybody's stealing. The runner at second stealing, the runner at third is stealing home. The bunt goes down, the runner from third scores, and then we try to score the runner from second because the play is going to go to first base. The out's going to go to first base. If it goes to the catcher, they try to get the guy at home plate that's coming from third, then you would not send the guy. But if the guy is stepping on third base when the throw is going to first base, you're sending. You have 2 umpires. The plate umpire's got to look at the play at the plate. The umpire that's out on the field, he's got to look at the call at first base. Nobody's watching the guy at second. My assistant coach, I'm up in Lawrence. The varsity's done playing. I'm watching the sub-varsity game. He has the guy from second base run to third and cut off about 30 feet of third base and come right on home and score. The kids are going nuts. You had some of these kids. I know you had some of these kids. They're going nuts, excited. I'm kind of chuckling up there as I saw it happen. And then I thought, that's not one of our core values. That's cheating. I can't let that happen. And I told the kids on the bus when we were driving home after I told my assistant coach that no longer happened. I didn't know they were doing it. That no longer happened. So people do things that make mistakes, and you got to correct those. Servitude leadership. I always felt myself to be a servant to the kids. That was my job. It's not their job to pick up all the gear. It's not the freshman's job to pick up all the gear. It's my job and everybody in the program to pick up the gear. It was my belief that if he's not getting it, if the player's not getting it, then that's my fault. I've got to communicate better. I've got to find different ways. And all these things have come through me through my prayers of asking God how I can be a better coach and a better person. So I developed core leaders. I don't have captains. I developed core leaders. We had 4 core leaders. Those core leaders were responsible for practice. Here's the practice schedule. And now they were responsible. If we're working on pitchers covering first base, there's a pitcher that's a captain. It's his job. If that person's not getting there, it's his job to get him there. My job is to watch to make sure he does that. So we had those 4 people. Those kids would then, we would take them and they would speak to the team. And some days we would take the team and everybody sitting in a circle would look to the guy to the right and tell that guy to the right what they liked the most about him as a person, as a player. And then we would change the seats in the circle. And it just helped me a great deal with bringing character to the team, that the parents knew what the character was about. And so when things became difficult, that person could reach down into themselves and the team could reach down into themselves, because you're going to have many that don't have that. They don't have that parent strength. And fathered by God, he says in the book, where he talks about the 6 places that a young man goes through from child to cowboy to warrior, etc., that a woman probably can't do it. Think of all the single parents that we have with the child living with the mom. The woman probably can't do it. So it may become a mentor, and you may be the mentor as a male figure. Women can do it. You know, the firmness of Jackie can give that to girls when they don't have that strength. So we tried to create positive moments for the team. We had running things that were positive, that you would have to ask for help, because we have to all have humility. One person's here, and there's a guy in the middle. He runs and tags this person, he runs and tags that person. He just keeps going back and forth until he can go no more. And then he asks Aaron, "Can you help me, Aaron?" Aaron says, "Yes, I can." Aaron goes into the middle for him. So he's offering humility of himself, and Aaron is giving him and granting him that grace and humility that he will help him. If you finish last a couple of times, you got out of the sprints. And you think, okay, that's stupid, because I was the guy in basketball. I was always last or next to last, and I'm trying as hard as I can. And the coach would say, if a guy finishes twice, he finishes first twice, you can step out. Okay, I came up with the idea, if you finish last twice, you get out. Kids will kill not to be last. You think somebody's going to loaf? They don't. Somebody will kill to get there. Okay, my desires as a coach. My last game I coached was in the state tournament, and we'd lost a tough game in the semifinals. And I always tell the kids, the greatest game you ever play is for 3rd place. Life is 3rd place. We always want to play for the championship. Most of the time we're playing for 3rd, trying to get to 1st. Because you're playing for 3rd doesn't mean that your effort stops. Doesn't mean your effort stops. So I never had to play for 3rd until my last game I ever coached. We had to play for 3rd. And I told the kids, here we are, all the things that I've talked about of how you get up. 3rd place is getting up off the mat. So we played for 3rd, and we had 13 runs in the first 2 innings. After it was over, I told the kids I was retiring. I couldn't speak. I was crying so hard. And I told them, we asked, this thing this sheet of paper Andrew gave to me, and some of the things that coaches have talked about as to why they coach. I coached because I wanted them to be better husbands and fathers. That's why I coached. I coached because I wanted to take somebody that didn't believe in themselves and have a light go off in their head. I can do this. I can do this. So to win, we talk about winning. We talk about it from the one-loss perspective, because when a coach dies, it's in the paper that Aaron Dean died, and he was a good guy. They don't talk anything about all the things you gave to the kid. They talk about he won 300 games and lost 150. They put it on the one-loss record versus all the things you gave to people. All the times the kid is crying, the kid can't make it because his parents are putting too much pressure on him. Teammates are putting too much pressure. You're sitting there on the soccer field. You're sitting on the cheerleading. You're sitting on the stage, Jackie, and you've got a girl that just, there's something wrong. Okay, you got to get in there and you got to find out what it is. So you're winning. You may not win in the game, but you're winning as a person. You're winning with the parents, and those are the things that are really important. I believe that every person that finishes in my program, I failed here. Everything I've talked about, I failed on. But I believe every person that is in your program should leave you as a better person than when they came in. I really believe that. And I don't believe something that really bothers me about coaching. Jackie came to me one time about one of our coaches was swearing in front of the kids. So we had a long discussion about that. I, for 15 years, was on the chain gang at football games because the head coach at Blue Valley West was my first right fielder at Shawnee Mission South. And then he became a baseball coach, then went into football. So I wanted to help him. I'm a watcher of coaches. I like to watch coaches, what they do. I like to listen to what they say on the sidelines. And you know, you can leave a young man with dignity. And I think that everybody must leave their players with dignity. Every coach must leave their player with hope. And if you didn't give him hope that night, tomorrow you give him hope. Because my dad, that was my dad. And I do a lot of things I do because of my dad. My dad never complained about a coach. My dad never complained about a teammate. My dad never sat down and talked to me about how I pitched the ball, how I threw a football, how I shot a basketball. My dad talked about my attitude. And we had a chalkboard in the kitchen. And back in the 50s, the only cereals were Rice Krispies and Post Toasties. So we had a bowl of one of those. And my dad would write on the chalkboard my things about my attitude, how he saw me, how I played, my effort. And he left every conversation, not one conversation, I mean this truly, he never left the conversation without saying, Bud, I know you can do it. What that is hope. And that's what I had to leave each player with. I have to leave him with hope that he can succeed. So before I ever talked to him about things I wanted to talk to him, I had a plan. I looked at what his failures were. I had developed a plan over a day or two so I could give him the plan and then go to work with it. I, as a coach, believe I try to learn as much as I can about the game. I don't worry about the parents. I enjoy the parents. Parents are a pain in the rear, but they're under a lot of pressure too. And you have to encourage them. You have to let them know you know that what you're talking about. So at South, I started doing this at South. If there ever was any issue, I had the parent in. Because if you have the parent in, they realize you care about their son. I'm not talking about baseball. I'm talking about caring for people. I care about their son, and I know more about their son maybe than they ever thought that I knew about him because I've talked to their son a lot. So they end up being your best fans if you do get with the parents and don't let things fester. On the field, my job was to have the players' backs, and my job was to teach. I was a teacher on the field. I always wanted to give my players a plan. I wanted them to know I would stand alongside them and teach them baseball. And then I would teach them baseball. And then I'd work on their failure with them. I'd get in the dirt with them. And I'm not saying, okay, I'm going to replace you or the varsity shortstop. I'm going to bring up the JV shortstop. I'd say, no, you're going to stay with me after practice here today. You're going to stay and come early with me on Saturday morning, and we're going to get this worked out. and I would call the parents and tell them this is what I'm doing. I think it's always better to remain calm when all things are caving around and you got after the team, to always remember tomorrow's a new day. Never carry over the next day what you did with them. These are all the reasons I coached, because I never did have a coach that did these things, except for my freshman year in high school. The coach that had been the head coach for 13 years was going to retire. And a guy came in from a little town called Arcadia, Kansas, down by Pittsburgh. And he transformed me, as a person. Unfortunately, after a month, he had a nervous breakdown. He had to go to the hospital. So I'm a freshman in high school, and I kept writing him letters to tell him what he meant to me and what he had given to me that I never had from a coach, because my dad was my coach. And the coach we had, everybody in town loved him. And he used to beat us at football practice. If we didn't do something right, he'd come up and he would hit us. One time this is 1958. He gets Perry Michaels on the ground and starts beating the tar out of him. And then Michaels got up. We all started practicing like nothing ever happened. We just kept going. That's not the coach that you want. So every day to me was forgiveness. The next day was forgiveness. I never let them see that I was upset with them the next day. I tried to celebrate when the light goes off. There's nothing more exciting than when the light goes off. And the light goes off usually 90+% of the time in practice, when he sees that he can do it. And I want to celebrate that. I had a young man at South, because I was a JV basketball coach also for a number of years. He could not figure out weak side defense. He hung over on the man on the weak side like the ball was over there. And it's a February day, and we're playing Shawnee Mission Northwest. And all of a sudden, he got in the lane where he was supposed to be. I called timeout to celebrate that he had figured it out of how to be a team player, how to make it. I had a kid named Matt Faust when I went to Blue Valley West. Matt was a 92, 93 mile an hour fastball, which means we can throw that all the time, and we're going to be successful in high school. He had a nasty curve that was a 50-50 strike pitch, and he had no changeup. My job was to teach him a changeup, because when he leaves me, he's going to have a changeup, because 92, 93 in college isn't going to get him anything. He's going to have a changeup. And we were in Kearney, Missouri in the summertime, and he struck a guy out with his pitch, with his changeup. Now I can call his fastball every time, and he's going to strike out 10, 11 guys each game. But I called the changeup, and he threw it, and he struck the guy out. And we're ahead 11-0. He sprinted off the field to celebrate that he'd learned something. We won that day. Not the score. We won that day as a human being because he grew. As I said, leave him with hope. My dad was always the one to leave him with hope. I think you can have success as a player, as a person, and not have confidence in yourself. I think if you follow the process of what you're trying to teach, he will eventually gain that confidence. And that's what you're trying to give him. But I think he will gain the confidence if you teach him how the process goes of playing the game that he's in. Always coach with humility. Never be braggadocious of what you've done. Let your glory come through the kids. God has placed you there in a very important role. And I cannot thank Don Henry at KU enough for placing me in the exact spot that God meant for me to be in, to make a difference in other people's lives. And so my last thing I wanted to talk about a little bit was being a better communicator. And I think that's a real key. And I've asked God through prayer to let me be able to express myself the way that the player would be able to understand, or my wife understand, or my children understand me better as to what I'm asking of them. And I learned from another person. At the time that I learned this, I was 71 years old. And my best buddy retired. He's 55 years old. He retired 3 years ago as the baseball coach at Bryant, Arkansas. And he and I worked baseball camps for 5 years together and became just great friends. Our communication, when both of us were coaching, was 3 days a week, 5 o'clock in the morning, because I work out early in the morning. And we would call and talk with each other as we're both working out. So one day after I left South, I went to Blue Valley West. After Blue Valley West, for 3 years, I helped my son, who was a head coach in Olathe baseball program. And so he asked me, Dad, would you help me? So obviously I'm going to help my son. So I go there, and the most simple things I did, from player, from coach to catcher, from catcher to pitcher, were the things that I would do to try to fool the runner at second base, who may be trying to relay signals to the hitter of what we're giving. You know, when you give between your legs, you give signals, and you'll give multiple signals so they don't know what you're on. Well, people will eventually figure that out. So we had a different way of doing it. We did it with our hand, our glove hand. So we're giving signals between our legs, but we're giving signals with our hand. Next to the body means such and such, cupped meant something up, hand down meant something up. And they'll never pick it up at second base. They can't get it. They cannot get it. I mean, I'm weeks. The catcher can't get it. And so I'm saying to myself, he's brain dead. There's something wrong, or he's brain dead. So I called my buddy in Arkansas, and I'm crying at 5:30 in the morning about can't get it, can't do this, can't do that. And then I went silent for about 10 seconds. I'm 71 years old. I've coached 46 years at the time, 47 years. And he said, Bill, in his worst Southern Arkansas drawl, you got to be a better coach. Isn't that something? I mean, I've seen it all in coaching. And here's a 57-year-old punk guy telling me I got to be a better coach. And you know, he was absolutely right. What I got to do is got to be a better communicator. So I went to the nth degree to go deeper into what I wanted, that the kid at South got, the kid at West got, but the kid where my son was didn't get it. And that's what I wanted to be. And it's helped me in everything in my life. It's helped me be a better communicator. Men's group I go to on Monday night, where we have fellowship, and we just are, we're in Psalms right now. And if you know anything about Psalms, you know David. And David whines and cries every first few passages about how he has done all these things wrong. And then he always talks about how I will always be with you, God. I will always speak of you. And I tried to do that without saying that to the kids. And the only time that I kind of did some things religious, we had an associate pastor that was an older gentleman at our church. We go to Heartland. And he has these pins that says 10, has the number 10 on it. And he gave me one. So I wore it on my baseball uniform in 2012. And we'd lost in the state finals in 2011. We're in the state finals in 2012. And I wore that pin all through the season. The kids say, what is that? I'll tell you later. We lost 1-0 in the state finals in 2012 with a run scoring in the first inning that was walked in. And we did not score and had players all over the field. And the kids are crying, I'm crying. They said, Coach, what is that 10? And that 10 means that God sees me as a 10. God has forgiven me for the sins that I've created. He's given me grace. And in his eyes, I am a 10. And that's what I want to be to the kids. I wanted to be a 10 to the kids. I wanted to be difficult, tough, fair, truthful, but I wanted to know that I loved them and I cared for them. And that was kind of my life, you know, as a coach. Number 9, I liked on this list of coaches, things they've said. Remember that challenges we face allow us to grow, mature, and be more complete. That's my buddy in Arkansas telling me, Bill, you got to be a better coach. Number 10 is let your athletes know you care for them. In my policy sheet, I always talked about them being a person first, a player second. I talked about them being a person first and a player second. It says be a hope dealer. That's what I wanted to be. I tried to explain why I do what I do. The coach is fun, encouraging, and energizing. I wanted to be encouraging, energizing. Fun was a little lacking with me. Fun was when something funny happened on the baseball field that we would stop and celebrate that. But as far as ha-ha fun, there was no ha-ha fun in me running the program. It's business. That's what we got to do. So that's kind of my pathway, kind of the things I thought about, as a coach and the things I wanted to do. And when I really turned to the Lord, after I left Gerard in the church, we kind of floated from churches up here. When I lost my dad, I became really angry with God. My buddy I walk with, Dennis Butler, he's angry with God because he lost his wife. And it's not God's fault. My sister Kay, I had two sisters. My middle sister has passed away. My sister Kay spent some time with me of talking about God doesn't take my dad. Life takes my dad. God prepares us for my dad passing. God prepares Dennis as we go through life to be able to handle the passing of his wife. God prepares us with the downtimes that we have to celebrate, Rick, actually your club, your team, your coaching, celebrate each day that you have something that you can make a difference in somebody's life. You can help somebody. If you just teaching in school, if you walk by somebody in the hallway and just say something positive to them, girls give you weird looks if you say something positive about them because they don't, what is the matter with this guy? But that spurs me on. That makes me want to do it more. Particularly girls that live, I can't say it South anymore, but girls at West who are financially pretty well prepared financially in things, and you make some kind of comment to them, the guy's weird, there's something wrong with him. But if you can pass along something positive each day to that young person, you don't know who you're making that day. We all have a story, and we all want to tell that story, and we want to have somebody interested in us that they'll listen to the story. So that's kind of my story from the coaching side. Did you go to Pitt State?
Yeah, I did. I was going to say I've been to Gerard a couple times.
Isn't it great? You just drive around the square and it just puts a song in your heart.
Yeah, I used to have a couple fishing spots on the Neosho River right outside of Gerard.
Yeah. Well, most of the town has collapsed. The square, it sits on a square, and on each side of the square, buildings have collapsed. But I'm telling you, in the 50s, it was like Chicago. It was packed every Saturday. People going to the movies, grocery shopping. Now there may be one car on the square. I go down there 5 or 6 times a year and eat with my buddies at the East Side Cafe, because the East Side Cafe, if you ever saw the movie Hoosiers, where the coach went into the barbershop, in here, we play zone here in basketball. That was Gerard. There was 2 big tables. One table was for the kids, one table was for the adults. And the adults talked about sports, particularly complaining about the coach, and talked about politics. And that piqued my interest in both of those. And in the barbershop, it was talking about politics. It was complaining about the coach. And I swore I'll never live in a small town as a coach because I don't want to go through that. But I just can't thank the Lord for putting me in Gerard, Kansas to be raised. It was just the greatest place to be raised. My teachers cared about me. They watched me along the square. They watched me in town that I was doing the right things. I asked the superintendent of schools, who passed away 6-7 years ago. We went out and took a ride on one of my visits down to Gerard. I said, did I have good teachers? Or did I have good people? He said they were good people. They just really cared about us. So I go down there and I sit at the table now. And if I can't go, I'll send $40 down so I'll send it in the mail to my best buddy so they can eat breakfast there on me. Because if they're eating on me, then it puts me at the table. So
That's awesome.
yeah. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Kansas City, so I went to Blue Valley North actually for high school.
A good North guy.
Yeah. And then funny story. So my mom, like I said, went through South. My dad went to Shawnee Mission North. So yeah, same school as you, Shawnee Mission North, right? Or did you?
I may be a little bit. I was a '62 grad. He probably was a little bit beyond that.
Yeah, he was. I can't remember when he graduated, but he went down to Pittsburgh State, played football, and did track there. And I did track down at Pittsburgh State also. So
my son went down there and played baseball for Beaver, Steve Beaver. My son went down there in '95 and was graduated in 2000. And because he's Gomer Pyle, my son's Gomer Pyle, he loved going to Pittsburgh and get all the Barney Fife stories that I would tell him, or we'd watch Barney Fife. He loved Pittsburgh. And he went to the tech school there. He was in math, but he decided to go to the tech school after a year of math. His second calculus class, he couldn't do it. And now he's at Olathe West. He was at Olathe East for a long time and teaches tech there. So.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, I really like going to Pittsburgh State. I mean, I grew up going down there with my parents to football games and stuff like that. My dad wanted to show me the town, and I knew I wanted to be a teacher when I was in high school, probably at a pretty early age, like sophomore year or something like that. So I was like, that's a good school to go to if you want to be a teacher.
Yes.
So
he loved it. It's a great tech school. He really enjoyed it. I take him back to a football game every once in a while. I love to go down there when he was playing down there and go to the football games. When you're a KU football fan, you'll go any place to watch a football game other than KU. KU doesn't have to worry about social distancing. Nobody's in the stadium anyway.
Probably true.
Exactly.
Bill, thanks for talking today. I really appreciate everything you had to say, and thought you had some really good points that I can take with me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think just to gobble up everything that is said along the way and listen to people that maybe have seen the picture before and seen how, to not get discouraged. When you have problems, coaches get discouraged when they think that a parent comes in and sees you and says, everybody's upset. Always remember that, no, maybe two are upset. And if you won 50 games in a row or lost 50 games in a row, the same two parents would be in complaining, whether you're winning or losing, because they're never going to be satisfied. So just learn all you can about your sport and be confident in yourself that you know what you're doing and you have a vision as to what you want to do with your team and how they should play, and never accept less from a player. This is the way we will play. This is our style. You have to fit into this style. If not, the bench is the equalizer. I will coach you, and then I will hammer you if you cannot play this way. And hammer means you're going to have to sit down and we're going to have to talk and figure this out. And the parents are going to have to come in. Don't avoid the parents when bad things are happening on your team. Get with the parent and you'll head off many, many issues.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Bill, it was wonderful listening. I could listen to that for hours. That was so good. And I just, you just make so much sense. You're one of those common sense, I want to call them old school coaches, where, you're like a father. You bring that element, and boy, do our young people need that today. And,
yes.
The coaching community lost a great one when you retired.
Yeah.
So I hope you're keeping kids in your life some way, so that you can be that influence. Because
I've spoken, a few times, and I was supposed to speak in Nebraska at their state convention this July 23rd, 20 through the 23rd, and it was canceled. I was supposed to go to Beloit, Kansas, where my assistant coach for 4 years. He was at South with me for 4 years. He lives in Beloit. His wife's a doctor. They're from Beloit. And he went back there. Well, they have a a congregational thing where all churches come together at the Methodist church and they have a prayer breakfast. There'll be, 100 some people there. And he's invited me 2 years in a row to go there and speak and give my story. I don't know that anybody would be interested in it, but once again, I don't shut up. I just keep talking. And both times it's been canceled. It's been last time the coronavirus and something happened in the community and they had to call it off. So maybe the Lord's saying, Bill, you don't need to go there. Just stay around here. Don't go out there. But I have this, Jackie, I have this passion to speak about goodness in coaching because coaches, I'm not sure they have a good connotation of that they're mean or they don't like me because I think you have to be realistic. I think you have to be positive, but I don't think you can be a cheerleader all the time with the kids because you have to eventually tell them something that's going to help them grow, as a person. And we get all kinds of today with egos about don't have to listen. If I don't like it, I'm going to transfer it to another school. And it's more prevalent in Blue Valley. And I had 2 great players in 205. And I called both parents and said, just tell me what high school they want to transfer to. I'll call the coach because they will not play here the way they're acting. Because that's our number one thing is to get everybody to fit into the team and not accept somebody playing the way they want to play. No, you'll play the style we want to play. And I never worried about people saying, well, the 9th graders come in are not going to be very good this year. I don't care. We're going to teach you the skills of playing baseball. And by the time you're a senior, in 2011, we lost in the state finals. That freshman class that were seniors in 2011, that freshman class won 4 games. But this is the process we're going to take you through, and we're going to develop and make you a good person first, the best we can. And if not, then you're not going to play. So, and you just got to hold to that. And for some reason, swearing just bothers me with you brought that to me with Ryan, and I spoke to him about it. And because in Girard where I had the best basketball court. My dad had a basketball court built, and we happened to have a flat garage, no roof like this, but it was flat, and it was 10 foot. And it was the best court in town. Well, a little town, everybody came there and played. But the number one rule was there'll be no swearing. I mean, a guy could swear in the court. My dad was out the door. Hey, you got to go home. I just developed it. I developed that. And I did my son the same way. So when kids would come over and play in our backyard, little guy across the street, we went to his wedding in Oklahoma City 2 years ago. He lived across the street, and he would swear, and John would say, Brett, you got to go home. I just think we can conduct ourselves better than that because they have to leave us better than they came in. And the easy thing to do is to express yourself, particularly in football games. The swearing on the sideline it's beyond incredible. And I just don't think that's the atmosphere you want in a high school sports or any sports. It kills me when I see basketball coaches in college Self puts his hand over his mouth because he's unleashing a tirade of swear words, and I know we all get upset sometime and slip with something, but it's repulsive to me the way you treat kids that way. So that's just the way it is. Well, thank you.
And if you, Bill, will do one more thing, make sure you tell Mike Naster hi for me.
Will do.
Okay, I haven't seen Mike in such a long time, and it was such a thrill for me when he converted to Christianity, when he found Jesus. Yes. That was huge because I had witnessed to him at South, and it's awesome. And Dennis Butler too. Tell him hello.
Dennis was a great guy, but you think, okay, when you become a Christian, that it's all the flowers are gonna bloom and everything, and life's still tough.
Yeah, it is. No promises with that.
And every day I get in my car, I feel like Jesus is in the passenger seat next to me. And that keeps the ship going straight because we all fail. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it. Would one of you guys mind closing us out in prayer? Anybody feel like doing that?
I'd be happy to.
Okay, go ahead, Aaron.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for Bill's words of wisdom and encouragement today. And we ask that we may be able to use those words of encouragement and apply them to the athletes that we coach and the coaches that we coach with. And we ask that we may do everything not to glorify ourselves, but to glorify you. And we ask that you may be with us always, and especially as the school year is about to start up. We ask all these things through Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thanks, Aaron.
Jackie, are you going back, Jackie?
Yeah, I am.